Really excited for this session with Laurie from At One Ventures. Just a quick bit of housekeeping before we start. In the chat section, let us know who you are, where you're from, what you're working on, and what your interests are in climate. In the Q&A tab, please write questions. We like seeing as many questions as possible. We've had some really fantastic questions throughout the summit. If you could give the questions a thumbs up if they resonate with you in particular, and we will do our best to answer by priority. But without further ado, I'm going to let Laurie take it away.
All right, thanks a lot, you. Hi, everybody. I guess good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Very excited to be here, and thanks a lot, SOSV, for the opportunity and for just organizing this event. So before answering any questions, I'm going to start with a small presentation. Of course, I'll talk about At One Ventures, but I also want to talk about the key role deep tech can play in catalyzing a world where humanity is a net positive to nature. So let's get started. And I'd like first to kind of reframe the problem. We talk a lot about the global average temperature increase since the pre-industrial time. And so we are at 1 degree Celsius today, and we are basically on a path to reaching 3 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. But 1 degree, 3 degrees Celsius doesn't seem like much. And actually, what's killing us today are not the averages. What's killing us is the climate volatility. It speaks of temperatures that are leading to climate disasters that we are seeing more and more. Like a month ago, the wildfires in Maui, in Lahaina, in a place we would have never expected to see a fire. Or last week in Libya, with this flood killing thousands of people. And this is just with 1 degree Celsius more. 3 degrees Celsius will be a world of constant disaster. So really, we need to act now, and we need to set our sights higher. And I'm a bit frustrated when I hear the industries, for example, talk a lot about ESG policies, because I can tell you ESG policies are not enough. Even if we were to stop all of our CO2 emissions today, we will still not get back to the temperature from pre-industrial time. That's because CO2 has a lifetime of hundreds of years. I'm not asking to stop everything. I'm not asking for degrowth. What I'm asking for is really to rethink our industries, basically reset them, and produce what we need while giving back to the planet. And we know actually that we can grow while also reducing carbon emissions. There are a number of countries that have been able to do so, like the US, like France, like Italy, the UK, Spain, and many others that have been able to grow in the last 20, 30 years while reducing emissions. On this graph here, you can see the change in CO2 emissions and GDP in the US. And if you look basically at the last 20 years, you can see that GDP has increased quite a lot, while the emissions related to consumption that has been adjusted for trade, and the emissions related to productions of productions-based CO2 have decreased. So we can reduce emissions while increasing growth for countries, but reducing emissions are not enough. We really need to think about resetting our industries, but also restoring our ecosystems. When you look at the carbon budget today, you have the carbon sources on the left side in gray, with, for example, coal that we are burning to produce thermal energy and electricity, oil and gas that we are using for transportation or for heating our buildings, cement, which is, by the way, responsible for 7% of the global carbon emissions annually, and land use related to deforestation with agriculture, for example. So that's kind of the emissions and the sources. But on the right side, what's really interesting is to see that nature has an inherent ability to sequester carbon. With land, with our forests, mangroves, and also the oceans, with the phytoplankton, with the coral reefs. So we need to start thinking holistically about carbon emissions, but also carbon capture, and really rethink our relationship to nature. And that's really what we focus on at One Ventures. We are really focused on being net positive to nature and upgrading our relationship to the physical components of nature. And by that, I mean the air, water, soil, and biodiversity. And concretely for us, we look at early stage companies that are going to use deep technologies to upend the unit economics of the industries damaging the planet, but also deep tech that can scale activities like ecosystem restoration and deep tech that can pioneer industries that are actually regenerative to the planet. And here, I really like to insist on the unit economics aspect of our triad, because when you look at the clean tech 1.0 era, one of the biggest reasons those companies failed back then was because they were developing solutions that were green premium. And ultimately, when you want to completely reset industries like steel, cement, agriculture, chemical industries, those industries are extremely cost sensitive. In order for them to adopt green solutions, they need to see, economic viability. And so for us, we only focus on solutions that are going to be at least at cost parity with incumbent technologies, if not cheaper. And those superior unit economics need to come from the physics fundamentals of the solution. Meaning that when we do our due diligence, we look at the energy mass balance of the technology and are really trying to find those wins at the stage when we invest in the company. And so our focus is on seed and Series A investments. We've started operating back in 2020. That's when we did the first closing of our first fund. We ended up raising $150 million for this first fund that we closed in 2021. And last year, we decided to raise a second fund, and we are getting oversubscribed. We are currently closing the fund at $375 million with the same investment thesis to continue backing deep tech companies. And we've invested so far in 35 deep tech companies across a bunch of different industries, from steelmaking to agriculture to reforestation. And our focus, I think it's important here, is on physical businesses, because ultimately we've damaged the planet physically, so we need physical solutions to heal the planet. And I'll give you just two quick examples of companies we've backed. The first one is a company called Ascend Elements. Ascend Elements, they focus on lithium-ion battery recycling and cathode manufacturing. What they do is to take lithium-ion batteries from electric vehicles, but also from smartphones or computers, and they recycle 99% of their content and use this content to directly produce cathode active material in a closed loop process. The cathode that they produce is 35% cheaper than cathode made with virgin metals, and their process emits 83% less carbon emissions. And so because of that, in just 2 years and a half, the company went from lab stage with no revenue to building the largest lithium-ion battery recycling facility in North America. That's the facility you can see here on this picture, to raising over $1 billion of private and government funding. We actually received $480 million from the DOE, and to signing a $1 billion contract, expandable to $5 billion with a top EV maker. And that's really because, again, of this triad of deep tech leading to disruptive unit economics and environmental economics. And just another example here, a company called Delta Systems focused on large-scale ecosystem restoration. Basically, they use drones to plant trees. And what you can see here on the picture is an old mine site where basically the ecosystem has been completely destroyed. There is absolutely no life. They brought their drones on this site, planted a large variety of native tree species, and 18 months later, picture on the right, you can see life is back. The forest is growing again. The soil is getting healthier with microbiome forming again, and they've been able to restore this ecosystem. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, one drone from Dendra system can plant 120 trees per minute. With just 6 drones, you could plant 1 million trees in just a day, and 1 trillion trees, that's the current carbon debt we have. So I think it's a perfect example to really show that deep tech can really scale all of this restoration of ecosystems. And so I'll stop here. Basically, I'll leave you with just a few words. A quote that comes from my colleague Tom, where basically he was saying that we have the world we have because we think the way we do. And today, there are lots of new perspectives that are out there that have the ability to make us, I mean, humanity, and nature thrives. And it's basically up to us, up to you, entrepreneurs, to build companies around those new ideas. And it's up to us, investors, to recognize those ideas and back them. So anyway, thank you for that. I'll stop here and I'll answer questions. Okay, so most popular questions. Okay, I'll start with someone anonymous. Why is it difficult to start a climate adaptation tech startups? And what is the future of climate adaptation in other fields beside agtech? I think climate adaptation, similar to, climate mitigation, they have the same issue in the sense that it's very important to focus on a solution that is going to address needs from the industry you are going after. And at the same time, a solution that is going to be economically viable. And that's often here that we see some challenges in terms of building solutions that are going to be just a no-brainer for the industry to adopt. It's true that today, climate adaptation, a lot of the companies are in ag. We have an investment in a company focused on developing climate resilient crops. They've basically developed a platform to accelerate gene discovery and to focus on traits that are going to develop those climate resilient crops related, for example, to drought or heat. But yeah, I will say focus on the unit economics, on the solutions that are going to have the same performances, at least that the incumbent technologies, and there will be wins there. Okay, next question. How does @ONE source its high quality deep tech deals? From someone anonymous again. So we source our deals, and perhaps I think I have a slide about that. Give me just a second. Okay, so our deals are actually very diverse. And the reason why is because of our team. We have a team that is 100% diverse in terms of gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, but also in terms of background. So, for example, in my case, I'm a biotech engineer and I worked several years in the chemical industry. So I have a strong network in the heavy industry in general. I also worked with the US Department of Defense and with national labs. So I'm very close to research. My colleague Tom spent his career in the tech industry. He was an executive at Yahoo and Microsoft and was one of the founding team members of Google X. So his network is much more into Silicon Valley, but also research centers as well. And then we have Helen, our third partner, who spent her career in finance, built a private equity firm in China, and spent several years in Africa. So our networks are extremely diverse. We have connections among industries that are very different, and because of that, we source very diverse deals. in the US, but also abroad. I used to live in San Francisco. I'm now in France, so I have more connections now in Europe. And I would say most of our deals come from referrals from other investors or accelerators or incubators and research centers we work with. So, all right, next question. Agneta. Hey, Agneta. It's been a while. It's been many years, I think, since we last saw each other. Would you consider investing in fusion energy, AI-controlled fusion energy plasma? So fusion energy, we looked at it, and we are still looking at it. I mean, fusion energy could, completely change our world. And the issue today is that all of the technologies that are out there, laser technology, confinement technologies, are still early stage from the startup world. So we have not found yet a company that has a high potential to bring a new fusion reactor to the market and have an impact within the lifetime of our fund. Because basically that's what we are looking for. We are looking to see a reduction in annual emission of at least 200 million tons per year, or a reduction of water pollution or chemical pollution or impact on biodiversity by at least 50%. And with fusion, of course, it's we still don't know when it's going to happen. So yes, we are open to it, but so far we've not found the right opportunity, but still looking for great new deals. All right, next question. Physical solutions are great, but what about the monitoring solutions that help us track how well our natural capital assets and biodiversity projects are progressing? Do you see remote sensing and Earth observation data analytics as an essential part of your portfolio? We actually have one company doing Earth observation and data analytics. It's a company called Chloris Geospatial, where they've developed a very unique algorithm to make correlations between satellite imagery and the actual biomass that is sequestered in trees. And so, yes, we have one investment that actually is the only software investment we have. That's because, yes, we think it's important. We think we need to have those solutions out there to really make sure that those restoration projects are actually going to have an impact. And also, ultimately, our focus is really on physical solutions and hardware company. Basically, the rest of the 35 companies we've invested in are focused on hardware and physical solutions. Okay, next question. Anita again. Do you invest in energy efficiency, such as in building decarbonization that can scale quickly? Yes, we do. And actually, I'm very excited by what I would call this untapped opportunity, because when you look at climate tech today and the investments that are made, roughly 50% of the investments are going into transportation, while transportation is just responsible for 15% of the emission. So I'm really excited by all of those other opportunities, including buildings with heating and cooling, but also cement. As I mentioned earlier, cement the production of cement emits 7% of the global carbon emissions. So I'm actually very excited by those sectors, and we do invest in those sectors. We have a few investments both into heating and cooling of building and as well as cement production. Question from Jamie. How does Dendra Systems make revenue? Or is it a non-profit? No, it's not a non-profit. And I think that's very important, because if we want to scale ecosystem restoration, again, we need to have solutions that are going to address a need from the industry and solutions that are going to be economically viable. And so basically, Dendra, what they do is working with the mining industry, which today has, from a regulatory perspective, it's mandatory for them to restore ecosystem on old mines. But today they do it manually. It takes years, costs millions and millions of dollars. So Dendra is addressing this market where there are customers willing to pay that are already have budgets for those ecosystem restoration, and they are servicing this mining industry with a solution that is just a fraction of the cost of what the mines are paying today. So yeah, it's a profitable company. It's not a non-profit. Okay, question from Kyle. Um, how does At1 score regenerative solutions that can't be boiled down to carbon? So as I was mentioning, our vision and our mission is broader than just looking at carbon emissions. Again, we are really focusing on upgrading our relationship to nature, and we look also at water. We look at soil and the health of the soil. We look at biodiversity. And so regenerative solutions to us, when we assess them, we don't only look at carbon again. We look at how much water, for example, we could save by using this solution. What will be the impact on biodiversity? What will be the impact on the health of the soil? For example, we invested in precision farming, more specifically in smart weeding, to basically cut the chemicals that are used in agriculture that are polluting our soil and killing our pollinators. And it's something very important for us. And when we look at those regenerative solutions, we are not looking at improving things by 10 or 20%. We are completely looking at things that can reset the way we do things. So it's something really important for us. Okay, question from Vincent. What is your view on CO2 geological sequestration? So same here, we've looked at a few companies. So far, we've not made investments. I will say we had a bunch of debates internally. It's still kind of a topic we don't, I don't know, we are still not completely aligned here, but I will say it's not something we are focusing on a lot at the moment. And there are topics actually, this one could be potential investment area for us, but there are topics, for example, we are not investing in. Typically direct air capture, because direct air capture is just a fight against entropy. And from an economical perspective, it just does not make sense. It does not make sense today, and I don't think it will make sense moving forward. I think biological carbon capture is something economically much more attractive. So anyway, there are topics like that, and you'll see it's similar for a bunch of different venture capital firms where we don't make investments. Okay, next question from Cameron. How do you balance the focus on unit economics with your focus on deep tech investments and tend to have very high technical risk? So when we look at deep tech, basically we invest in what we call late lab bench, which are technologies, deep technologies that have been validated in the lab. We don't invest just in concept. We are looking for experimental data from the lab, which is basically validating the idea and the concept of the technology. And when we look at the data, basically, and we understand the technology, as I mentioned earlier, we are looking at the energy mass balance, and we want to make sure that at the moment we invest in the company, there is already a win in terms of unit economics, because inherently, from the physics fundamentals, the economic win will be there. For example, it could be a new chemical process for steel making, for example, that is fully eliminating carbon emissions, but at the same time, reducing by, I don't know, 50, 80% the energy required, because this chemical process, instead of requiring over 1,000 degrees Celsius to reduce iron, is going to require, I don't know, maybe 300 or 400 degrees Celsius. So this is the type of things we are looking at when we do our due diligence. Okay, next question, and I'm going to look, yeah, okay. if new questions went pushed up. Okay, so a question from Jay. Do you feel data collection and processing is an issue in the climate space? I don't know in which sense you are asking the question, but if I look, for example, at carbon offsets and carbon credits, today, yes, there is definitely an issue with the quality of data that are provided and the way we process them, but also even the sensors that are out there to collect those data. So yes, that's definitely an issue. And I don't know if that's what you were referring at. We have 3 more minutes. You just tell me if I need to stop, otherwise I'll keep answering the questions.
You're doing great. We've got a few more minutes. I think we can fit a few more questions in. Really enjoyed
Okay,
the questions, everyone, and Laurie, your answers fantastic.
awesome. Okay, so I'll take a few more questions. Roger, would you consider AI applications that improve energy efficiency, such as hydrogen production? Maybe. Maybe again, we are really focused at one on solutions that can completely reset the way we do things. If the AI application could improve the energy efficiency by 10, 20%, I don't think it will be a good fit for at one. But if it's something much more breakthrough, yes, definitely. I'll be really interested to look at your solution. Amal, biodiversity. Any thoughts on tackling ocean health and marine ecosystems biodiversity? Yes, I mean, I'm a biotechnologist by training and actually started my career in research, looking at environmental virology, especially in marine ecosystems. So it's a topic very close to my heart. We've not made any investments yet in the marine ecosystem space because most of the companies we've seen don't match what we are looking for in terms of unit economics and total addressable market, but we are still looking open to it. We need to find solutions there for the ocean health. For example, to restore coral reefs, it's a very important topic to reduce the noise pollution in the ocean and to bring back the biodiversity. So yes, it's a topic we are definitely looking at. No investments yet, but we'll keep looking. Okay, and maybe one more question. Redeem. So as a green biotech startup specialized in protein and cell-free synthetic biology, technology to capture and convert industrial CO2 emissions into added value products such as methanol. Would you invest in such a decarbonization project? Again, it depends on the unit economics. I'm a big fan of this type of approaches because, again, I'm a biotech engineer by training. But ultimately, your process needs to beat, and if it's a bio kind of approach and cell-free, okay, don't know if you're using bacteria or yeast or fungi, but it's really important to be able to beat the unit economics of chemical processes. And sometimes with biotech, it's hard because biotech is still quite expensive as of today. That's why it's been a lot used in the pharmaceutical industry. I think it's very relevant for high value products. But again, happy to look at it. And if the unit economics make sense, could be interesting for At1 Ventures.
Laurie, that was awesome. I think we're at time now. Fantastic questions, everyone. And Laurie, well done for answering them. It felt a bit like watching a 50v1 investment committee. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed the session. Everyone, please continue to enjoy the climate event. And Laurie, thank you so much again.
Thanks a lot.